Hey class, welcome to our discussion on Japan and the Koreas. To start with, we're looking at section 1 of chapter 27, which goes into detail the physical geography of Japan and the Koreas. Our big idea for the section is to understand that Japan and the Koreas are rugged, mountainous areas surrounded by water. Our essential questions: what is the main physical feature of Japan and the Koreas? What is one type of natural disaster that can affect Japan and the Koreas? And what is one way climate affects the economy of Japan and the Koreas? So to start off with, we're looking at a political map. It's going to give us an idea regarding the borders of these three nations. And then we have Japan. And a lot of times people just want to think that Japan is these four islands, and we'll talk about that not being the case. With the map activity that I've been having you work on, a lot of you are questioning if Russia is anywhere on the map, and it is. You just need a reference and then have to draw on the border yourself. Physical features: Japan. Japan is an island nation made up of over 3,400 islands. Depending upon how you measure and what you consider to be an island, some counts can reach almost 7,000 islands. The islands are arranged in a chain more than 1,500 miles long. Again, so to give us a point of reference, 1,500 miles is roughly equal to the length of the U.S. coast from northern Maine to southern Florida. 95% of the landmass is located on the four islands, and we saw those previously on the political map. These are known as the home islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Mountains cover over 75% of the country. The largest mountain range in Japan is the Japanese Alps, and its highest point of elevation is Mount Fuji. It's important to understand that Mount Fuji is not part of the Japanese Alps, but it has become a national symbol of Japan. Physical features continued with Korea. Located on the Korean Peninsula, it's home to both North and South Koreas. Some of the features are rugged mountains running along the east coast. The main mountain range would be the Soraksen mountain range. Plains are located along the western coast, and the major rivers flow west and empty into the Yellow Sea. So here we have our physical map, as we just talked about, and this map is going to give us elevation. We see the darker areas here and here, so that east coast, mountainous, and then the west coast, we're going to have that coastal plain. Also points out two of the main rivers, the Taedong and the Han River, and then you also have the border with China, the Yalu River. Japan's highest point, Mount Fuji, centrally located on the island of Honshu. So then when we look at the elevation map, we can make some inferences. We know that Japan is densely populated, and what adds to that problem with the density is the lack of available spaces to live. Most of the population is going to live along the outer edge of the island because the habitability of the interior isn't very good due to the high elevations in the mountains that are there. Natural disasters. Japan, volcanoes and tsunamis. Japan is located along the boundaries of four major fault lines. It's on the western edge of the Ring of Fire, and this location along these four major fault lines causes volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. And as a result of the earthquakes, tsunamis can occur, which would be large waves that start underwater. And then when they hit the shore with a tremendous amount of force. In 2011, they experienced a major earthquake, which resulted in a tsunami. It hit the coast. There was a lot of damage there. It affected their nuclear reactors, and there was a big scare there with that for quite a while until they were able to bring those back online. Korea then, they're subject to typhoons. Typhoons are tropical storms that occur in the Pacific and Indian Ocean. Depending upon the severity of the storm, it can cause major amounts of damage. So Korea is not without its natural disasters. As we'll see on this map, the purple lines are the borders of those plates, the tectonic plates. So we're looking at this. All the red dots are earthquake activity. The purple triangles will be volcanic activity. And we can clearly see that North Korea and South Korea don't experience these types of natural disasters the same way that Japan experiences them. They do have some, but nowhere near the amount that Japan has. Climate and resources. All three countries share a similar climate with a variation running from north to south. Northern areas of the countries have cool summers, which equates to shorter growing seasons, and the southern parts of the countries are home to hot, humid summers and mild winters. The southern parts of the country, in conjunction with those hot, humid summers, they see heavy rains and typhoons, and they can have up to 80 inches of rain in a single year. Resources. Among the three countries, there's a variation of resources. Japan and South Korea, figuratively speaking, get the short end of the stick. They do not possess many natural resources. North Korea, on the other hand, they have large deposits of coal, iron, and then some other trace minerals. South Korea does have the advantage of a more rough topography, so they're able to use that to their advantage to help generate electricity. Japan is home to one of the strongest fishing economies in the world. So we've looked at two different maps now. Why do you think that is? You'll need to be able to answer that within your entrance ticket. So here we're just looking at a couple different maps, gives us some exposure to some different information. The map on the left, Japan's agriculture. We clearly see that most of the islands, the four main islands here, are covered with forest. There is some pasture. Red would be rice and single crops. The neon green, rice, some wheat and double crops, and then wheat, oat, and barley. Very small portions of these islands. So what happens then is Japan has to be able to set up with some different trade partners and import food. Fortunately, Japan is a spot where a lot of technology gets developed, so they're able to trade out the technology, and then they trade in the things they need to help feed their population. The map on the right, we talk about the 5 key parts of a map. This one doesn't have a title, so it's hard to know what we're looking at, but resource production. What's interesting to note is fuel fabrication and then research and development. all the different spots where they do R&D, and then the fuel production. So they're very much invested in that for their economy. The next slide is going to take you through a short video that gives some more detail with the physical features of Japan. And then when I come back, we'll walk through the entrance ticket and we'll go from there.
Japan is a country in East Asia consisting of nearly 7,000 islands, of which only about 430 are inhabited. Japan is located in the Pacific Ocean, not far from the northeastern coastline of continental Asia. It lies to the east of the Sea of Japan, also called the East Sea, as well as the East China Sea. The nations of Russia, South Korea, North Korea, and China are to its west on the mainland of Asia. The Japanese archipelago stretches over 1,500 miles from the Russian island of Sakhalin and the Sea of Okhotsk in the north, and almost to the nation of Taiwan in the south. Japan's 4 largest islands are Hokkaido, Honshu, Kyushu, and Shikoku, which together make up about 97% of its total land area. Japan is home to 126 million people, the world's 10th largest country, and one of the world's most densely populated as well. The nation is a unitary parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy, so the Emperor of Japan is the traditional head of government and lives in this grand imperial palace in Tokyo. But Japanese laws are written and enacted by a parliament whose upper house meets here. Tokyo, the largest Japanese city, along with its surrounding communities, constitute what is currently the largest urbanized area on Earth and is home to 37.8 million inhabitants. Tokyo is also the nation's capital city. Japan is a highly industrialized manufacturing country and possesses the world's 3rd largest economy after China. It is not an ethnically diverse country at all. In fact, over 98% of its citizens are of Japanese heritage and speak the Japanese language, and the country has almost no immigration. The unofficial national religion of Japan is Shintoism and is very important culturally to the Japanese people. The overall life expectancy in Japan is 84 years, the highest in the entire world. And Japan has the unfortunate distinction of being the only country to ever have been attacked with nuclear weapons. About 3/4 of the territory of Japan is mountainous, forested, and not well suited for either building or for farming. So most of Japan's population lives on the flatter lands nearer its coastal areas. And that's where the majority of its farms are located too. Japan has 108 active volcanoes, the most famous of which is Mount Fuji, seen here. It's the country's highest mountain and last erupted a little over 300 years ago. Japan's volcanic activity is mainly due to the fact that the Pacific and Philippine tectonic plates are being forced under the Eurasian tectonic plate by a geological process known as subduction, which produces intense heat and pressure below the surface. Around 15 million years ago, the subduction process actually caused the land that now makes up Japan to break away from the Asian mainland, which created the Sea of Japan in the process. Due to its ongoing tectonic activity, Japan is extremely prone to violent earthquakes and destructive tsunamis, both of which impact the country fairly frequently. The images seen here show some of the effects of these terrible natural disasters. Because Japan is made up of so many islands, the country has a huge amount of coastline. Along its rugged coast, numerous bays and estuaries support a thriving fishing industry, as well as aquatic farms, where oysters, scallops, fish, and even seaweed are raised. These comprise the main ingredients of two very well-known Japanese dishes, sashimi and sushi. The ordinary diets of the people of Japan include more foods derived from the sea than any other large nation. The climate of most of Japan is temperate, with 4 distinct seasons. But weather patterns change significantly from its extreme north to its extreme south. For example, the northernmost Japanese island of Hokkaido experiences a moist continental climate with warm summers and long, cold winters. A little further south on Honshu Island, a snowy winter day is a good time to see red-faced Japanese macaques warming themselves in the local hot springs. In contrast to its cooler northern parts, the islands of southernmost Japan have a subtropical climate with warm winters and hot summers. The main rainy season begins in early May in the south of Japan, and the rainy weather tends to gradually move northward until reaching Hokkaido in late July.
So entrance ticket 1. What is the physical characteristics that Japan and the Koreas have in common? What type of climate is found in the northern and southern regions of Japan? And why would Japan rely so heavily on a fishing economy? Think back to the 3 maps that we looked at. Their location, proximity to a resource. Remember to have your entrance ticket completed prior to arriving in class on the assigned day. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.